Jeremy Clarkson spent £1 million on a knackered old boozer off the A40. Year 1 staff count, 0. The industry shrugged. That same pub now employs 146 people and serves produce from a farm that barely breaks even. Because it wasn't a pub, it was a loyalty anchor. And by the end of this, the only thing you'll understand is why every farmer in Britain should be doing exactly this, but almost none of them will. Clarkson, the son of a Paddington Bear toy salesman from Doncaster, had arrived at the same conclusion through entirely different means, which is in its own way rather magnificent. He had spent 3 years watching the farm shop queues stretch for miles. 2,500 people on a Saturday, all waiting to buy sausages, honey, and strawberries that came from land he had bought for £6 million in 2008. Land that made £144 profit in year 1. The council thought they were protecting rural character. They were creating the most famous farm shop in the world with every objection they raised. But here is where it gets interesting. The farm shop had a problem. Everything had to come from within 16 miles. Planning condition imposed by West Oxfordshire District Council. Lisa Hogan, Clarkson's partner, later admitted was the best thing that ever happened to them because it forced them to find suppliers they'd never have discovered otherwise. The limitation was the advantage, and the avocados from South America in the shop fridge were about to become a very expensive mistake. Charlie Ireland, the land agent who had been guiding Clarkson since the beginning, did the maths quietly. Strawberries bought at 28 pence, sold at 37. That's 25% margin, not 40. Lisa's maths. In Dublin, they do it differently. But the real problem wasn't the pricing. It was the ceiling. The farm shop could only sell to people who visited the farm. 25,000 visitors a year. That's it. The queue was the limit. Now. Here's the part that even most people who follow this story closely have never fully joined up. The pub wasn't about beer. It was about bypassing the queue entirely. Think about it. The farm shop sells to people who drive to the farm. The pub sells to people who are already driving past. The A40 is one of the busiest roads in the Cotswolds. Thousands of cars every day. Most of them hungry. Most of them tired. Most of them looking for somewhere to stop. And suddenly, there's a place called the Farmer's Dog serving steaks from Diddley Squat, sausages from the farm shop, and Hawkstone lager from the brewery that Clarkson had already helped turn into a £21.3 million annual business. The brewing industry was not concerned when Hawkstone launched in 2021. Carlsberg had rejected the brewery at £50 million. They thought it was a celebrity gimmick. They were wrong. By 2025, Hawkstone was in more than 4,000 pub taps across Britain. 134% annual growth rate. £75 million valuation. The failure is the product. It is the most counterintuitive business model in British broadcasting history. But consider the pub closures for a moment. 20,000 pubs closed since 2000. 1,000 a year. A third of all British pubs gone. The government thought they were regulating responsibly. They were making it impossible to make a profit from a pub. Planning permissions, staffing regulations, business rates. The entire system designed to protect rural communities was making rural communities less viable with every new rule. And Clarkson was about to do something that almost nobody in British agriculture had understood. He didn't buy a village pub. He bought a main road pub. The village pub depends on the village. The main road pub depends on traffic. And the A40 has more traffic than most villages have people. Lisa called it brilliant. Charlie called it affordable. The staff count was the problem. 146 employees. Human resources. Clarkson had never even heard of HR. He had been on the Rotter Room Advertiser, which was the last time he was employed. The irony was delicious. The man who had spent 20 years being precisely the sort of man you weren't supposed to like was now employing more people than most rural businesses could even dream of. Stop. Because what comes next is the reason the government is in full panic mode and almost nobody reported it. The pub menu was farm to fork. Everything British. Everything local. Apart from the odd exception, because as Clarkson said, who wants a gin, water, and a slice of turnip? But the point was clear. Support local. Ignore the glossy spin. Back the people doing things properly. And this is where the story stops being about one pub and starts being about something much bigger. Hawkstone Lager uses just 4 ingredients: water, malted barley, hops, yeast. All British. The brewery says it is working exclusively with British hop farmers. Its hop usage in 1 year increased activity in that farming sector by 15%. For a growing independent brewer, that connection between the farm, the brewery, and the pub is a compelling part of the proposition. But consider what happens when you connect all three. The farm grows the barley, the brewery makes the beer, the pub sells the beer, and the pub sells the farm's meat, and the farm shop sells to people who visited the pub, and the campsite fills up with people who want to stay near the farm. It is not a farm. It is a flywheel. The council thought they had leverage. They were providing the narrative. Every objection made the story better. Every rule made the solution more ingenious. The 16-mile sourcing restriction made the pub necessary. The pub made the farm shop more valuable. The farm shop made the campsite more attractive. The campsite made the brewery more famous. The brewery made the pub more profitable. And the pub made the entire operation more resilient than any single business could ever be. Now, if you've been finding this as fascinating as I have, here is the detail that changes everything, and almost nobody noticed it. The pub cost £1 million. The farm cost £6 million. The brewery valuation is £75 million. But the real number is this. Amazon pays Clarkson between £10 and £12 million a year for the television series. The farm isn't the business. The farm is the film set, and Amazon was paying the rent. The pub wasn't a pub. It was a film set extension. Every customer was an extra. Every meal was a scene. Every complaint was a storyline. You cannot manufacture that. You can only find it and then point a camera at it. But here is what nobody understood. The pub made the television series more valuable. The television series made the pub more famous. The farm shop made both more profitable. The brewery made all three more sustainable. And the campsite made the entire operation more resilient to bad harvests, bad weather, and bad luck. The counterintuitive truth is this. The failure is the product. The losses on the farm are the content. The content is the marketing. The marketing is the value. And the value is not in the land. It is in the story. Caleb Cooper, the farm manager, who was already working at Diddley Squat when Clarkson bought it, understood this before anyone else. He had watched Clarkson buy the Lamborghini tractor that was too big for the shed. He had watched the sheep escape through fences that were supposed to hold them. He had watched the bees sting Clarkson in the backside while driving with the beehive in the car. He had watched the whole thing, and he knew something that most farmers don't. The authenticity cannot be faked. The chaos cannot be scripted. The humanity cannot be manufactured. That is not television. That is truth. The planning condition imposed by West Oxfordshire District Council that Lisa Hogan later admitted was the best thing that ever happened to them forced the 16-mile rule. The 16-mile rule forced the pub. The pub forced the brewery to expand. The brewery expansion forced the hop farmers to plant more. The hop farmers planted 15% more. The 15% more made British hop growing commercially viable again. And the government thought they were protecting rural communities. They were making rural communities dependent on subsidies with every new rule. Stand back. Look at the full picture. £1 million on the pub. £6 million on the farm. £75 million brewery valuation. £21.3 million annual brewery revenue. 146 pub employees. 2,000 pubs stocking Hawkstone. 4,000 pub taps. 10 to £12 million annual Amazon payment. 250,000 farm shop visitors a year. £2 million estimated farm shop annual revenue. £12.5 million current land value. £45 million total farm valuation. Every number connects. Every story element links. Every piece of the flywheel makes the other pieces more valuable. That is not a business model. That is a loyalty machine. And Tesco with $65 billion in annual revenue cannot replicate it. Because Tesco cannot put Jeremy Clarkson in their shops. They cannot put Caleb Cooper in their advertisements. They cannot put the Cotswolds in their supply chain. They cannot put authenticity in their marketing. They can only put prices on their shelves. And prices are the least interesting thing about any of this. The real risk is genuine. 20,000 pubs have closed. 1,000 a year. A third of all British pubs gone. The The staffing problem is real. The business rates are real. The planning permissions are real. The government policies that made this possible for Clarkson are the same policies that make it impossible for most farmers. And that is the uncomfortable truth. The system is not broken for everyone. It is broken for everyone except the people who can turn the broken system into content. But here is the question that matters. Can British farming save itself by saving the British pub? The answer is yes. But not by buying pubs. By understanding what the pub actually is. It is not a place to sell beer. It is a place to sell provenance. It is not a business. It is a brand anchor. It is not a revenue stream. It is a loyalty loop. And the farmers who understand this will win. The farmers who don't will watch another 1,000 pubs close next year. And wonder why. If you've enjoyed today's story, do subscribe and tap the notification bell. Drop us a comment below. We genuinely love to know. Have you visited the farmer's dog? And if you did, was the Hawkstone lager worth the detour? Thank you, as always, for watching.